I don't believe that people can get sober or well through one thing. I think it takes what it takes, and everybody's different. There are no two people that are the same.
Welcome back to the PMR podcast. My name is Mitch. I'm an addict alcoholic. Super excited for today. We have a very special guest on, as well as another very special guest on. But today we have Kylie joining us. She's the Chief Clinical Officer of the Vic James Center. We also have the owner and CEO of the Vic James Center here, Sarah. But Kylie also has practices therapy in a private practice setting and is a successful business owner, among many other things. I'm sure we'll get into it today, but we're very excited to have you on today.
Very thrilled to be here. Thank you so much.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Thank you for Sarah and the Vic James Center for sponsoring this episode. Super grateful to be in the studio and have an opportunity to speak with you in a setting like this. Thank you to Nova, too, for help setting up today and always holding it down on things that I could never do. So, but we spoke a couple days ago, and I've been really excited since then to speak with you. You do a lot of the things professionally that I aim to do as well. So I'd love to hear a little bit about your story and how you kind of made it to this point.
Sure. Where should I begin?
Yeah.
Well, first and foremost, I'm extremely passionate about addiction and working in the specialty. Speaking from personal experience and my professional exposure, it's been quite a journey up to this point, and I couldn't have done it alone. I've had a lot of help along the way. And so yes, as you mentioned, I'm the Chief Clinical Officer of the Vic James Center, and then also a psychotherapist in my own private practice. And my journey started, I'm 11 years in recovery.
Amazing.
And my journey had started about the 2-year mark. Actually, my therapist had encouraged me to get into this field, and I sort of ripped off the Band-Aid and started grad school and working in treatment in the same month. And it was incredible. You know, treatment, I think I learned so much working at the front line of sobriety and with others, and their difficulties and everything that it goes through getting up to that point of asking for help. And through that, you know, grad school was a 2-year journey and then an additional 3 for licensing. So it was about a 5-year process. And throughout that, I had worked at a broad-based center in Culver City, working with a diverse group of clients, work for free in the beginning, but so worth it because I think the work is so rewarding that you gain so much from that. And also working at the treatment center, I started as a behavioral health technician and worked my way up. I was with the Hills Treatment Center for 4 years, and from then on I went to Meadows Malibu, which was a startup in Malibu back in 2018. And it's a part of the Meadows Behavioral Healthcare company in Wickenburg, Arizona. They've been around for 45 years plus and have one of the best, I believe, treatment facilities and programs in the country. And it was such an honor to be brought onto that team and to learn from, you know, their senior fellows, their team, their supervisors. It was just been some incredible training. And so, working in treatment, once I graduated, became an intern. That's when I'd started working in private practice under a supervisor. And then from there, it's really been a work in progress to build up to private practice. So working in treatment for over close to 10 years now. Absolutely love it. I'm not in it full time anymore. I'm part-time as well as helping out with the Vic James Center. And was a clinical director at the Meadows Malibu. And it was amazing. It was amazing to be the leader of a team. It was amazing to, you know, help others, reach others. But I really missed the client-facing part of it, even though I was still able to work with some clients. Like, my heart is working with people face to face. And so I really miss that. And I also feel like that is my greatest contribution as a professional. So it's kind of where my path led to moving into private practice full time.
That's amazing. I think I agree with you in terms of like that human interaction, especially since you have that shared experience with a lot of the clients or residents that you worked with. Like, I think people can either see that, or if you've shared that with them and they know that, then there's more trust there, there's more openness there, and there's more room for growth for them, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Totally agree. Because I think too, sometimes, clients will look at you and think that you don't understand, think that you can't possibly relate to what they're going through and the struggles, and can actually sit there and say, yes, I do understand, and I do get it. And I think self-disclosure, in our training and college and everything, that's not necessarily encouraged unless it could benefit the client.
Yeah.
And in this case, I do think that, disclosing your own recovery can be helpful to understand that, like, you can come out from the depths of your addiction and despair.
Yeah.
And there is light on the other side.
Yeah.
She is such an inspiration. Like, she's helped so many hundreds of people in the recovery community, like, not only like as a therapist, as a sponsor, as a friend, as an example. Like, she has overcome so much and accomplished like these amazing things in your life. Like, you started your own business, it's thriving, like Mitch said. Like, I just want to make sure, for the record, she's amazing. So wanted to throw that out there. But yeah, your authenticity and the genuine way that you work with your clients and friends, I think, is a testament to your success. Like, people can see that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I can see that. I could feel that when we met, and sitting here, you have a really good energy about you. And speaking of testament, I feel like it's like you're a walking testimony for others when they see what recovery can birth, if you will. Like, someone who works a program, cares about, puts their program first, and then you accomplish the things that you set out to do early in sobriety. I think that's like the most beautiful thing that there is.
That's it, right? That's why we do this. Like, So amazing. She's my friend.
Yes.
Yeah. I do want to ask though, how was the year 2? You said you worked in treatment and started grad school at the same time. That sounds pretty wild.
Because that's, just what we like to do, just dive right in there.
Yeah, may as well do it all at once.
Just leap.
Yeah. Yeah, it took me like 6 years or 5.5 years to get into finally working in treatment. But I think that's because I really wasn't I hadn't solidified my foundation. Not that it's ever solid, but it wasn't in a good place. And I think I knew that to a certain degree. And I basically took 2 summers ago, that summer off from working besides my own private business to like triple down on my recovery, doing the steps again. Got a new sponsor here. And only then I think I actually had my my interview for the place that I work at now on my sobriety date, which is like, stuff like that just started to align as soon as I started to prioritize my recovery. And I think
it's amazing how that happens, huh?
It's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. In terms of your clientele now, who do you work with? And I know you mentioned that you're also an addiction specialist. So what does that look like?
So the demographic is actually quite a wide range from youngest of 20 years old up to 60. So as we know, the disease does not discriminate.
Right.
And so I've been fortunate enough to have the experience to help a lot of people from different walks of life. And I would say probably about 30 to 40% of my clients are struggling with addiction. It's not my entire practice. Obviously, mental health is, after the pandemic and the aftermath of that, really stepping up, I think, clinically and being there for others. And it's still, dealing with the other side of that. But, I think it's incredible. It's incredible. To me, addiction is so complex.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And I just find it so fascinating, so interesting. And, I truly believe that the addiction, it changes the way one thinks, feels, and acts. And just because you remove the drink or the drug or whatever type of addiction it may be, let's say, a process addiction such as sex or gambling, shopping, things like that, doesn't mean that all of your problems go away. A lot of them can and will, but it doesn't mean that you're still left, I think, with the feelings, with some shame, some guilt. I think that's some of the hardest things for people to leave their addiction aside, is to face some of that and that despair. So really helping them along their journey. I believe it's an inside job. And I believe that each person has what it takes to, foster their own healing. And I'm just lucky to be a part of it and help them on that journey and really point them towards, community, other forms of support. I don't believe, that people can get sober or well through one thing. I think it takes what it takes, and everybody's different. There are no two people that are the same. So therefore, treatment can't be a cookie cutter model.
No.
So you really have to sit there and be with the client, listen to them, work on that relationship, hear them, see them. For some of them, sometimes it's the first time they're experiencing that, or even having a healthy relationship with another human being. And it's hard to release some of those fears as you face that. And it's really scary.
Yeah.
It's really scary.
That's really true. I completely agree with everything that you were saying there. And also, I like that you brought up the split between addiction and mental health. I think that's always been really interesting to me. And it's interesting that it's split because I'd like to hear your opinion too. But like our company, for instance, has like substance houses and mental health houses, and the company is split in that way. But from my experience, we've had, a lot of clients in our mental health that have substance issues as well. How do you view that in terms of, like, I don't want to typecast and say everyone is an addict or an alcoholic or whatever, but it feels like, those two are linked for sure, mental health struggles with substance abuse. How do you see that?
Yes, I agree with that. I think the way I look at addiction, substance use, things like that, is it's a way to cope, right? It's a way, medicating, numbing, escaping, whatever it takes. But you remove that, you need to treat what's going on, underneath that, whether it's anxiety, depression, any type of mood disorder, trauma, relationships, whatever sort of struggles and stress that people are having in their life. So I think that the substance is just what people turn to as a solution. And then you remove that and, you're left to do the work.
Yeah, we talk a lot about that in the last couple episodes. Like, removing the substances is kind of, if you want to chalk it up, the easier part. Once you remove the substances, then you need to work on, and this is more, I guess, 12-step related, but, or maybe not actually, but once you remove the substances, then you have all like the moral cleansing or the internal work, working on anxiety, depression, trauma, PTSD, whatever's there. That's like where you can see a lot of the growth. Because if you hold yourself, from my experience, I held myself in an area for the first 3 years really of my recovery, where I stopped the substances, but I didn't work on myself really.
Mm-hmm.
It was too scared. So I started acting like I was, on the substances, but never addressed some of the root stuff. And I think that's it's interesting to see how when you break it down and take the self-medication away, that it's really more of like a internal thing, I think we talked last week about how getting out of the present, and I was addicted to that early as a kid, like fantasy or games or whatever, to get away from now. Absolutely. And then as I got older, I found substances were more fun way to do that. And it's just escaping now, or in that way, I guess.
Yeah. Life is hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. And challenges that are presented, I think, from childhood through adolescence and youth, it's a lot to face. And I think everybody's doing the best that they can with what they have. And that's why I think things like the Vic James Center, so amazing for youth. Those resources, that community activities, I think it's so important. For me and my story, I was lucky in the sense that I grew up in a small town in Western New York, the Finger Lakes area. And I think it was hard to sort of disappear. Like no matter what you did, people would know you, see you in a small town. And unfortunately, my mother was really smart and sharp, and we couldn't get away with anything. I have two older brothers, and I really gravitated towards sports and academics. And I think without that, I would have been picked off. It would have been easier for me to slip into, drugs, alcohol, whatever it may be. And thank God for that I had that. Because, I have trauma from childhood. I've had things happen, as we all do. And so that's why I'm, such a big believer in what Sarah has created here with the Vic James Center and all that the team, extraordinary group of people and the way that they're helping others and the reach that it's creating. It's, I think like the youth are our future, right? And they need, if we can offer something that maybe they're not receiving at home, or, I'm sure like everyone's, again, doing the best they can, and parents are working hard and trying to put food on the table and provide. And so I think it's in a city like Los Angeles, it's, I think I've often heard people say, and I've experienced this as well, you can feel really alone in such a big city, right? And I think it's important to pull people in where we can and make them feel a part of something.
Yeah, Kylie was one of the big sources of inspiration for the Vic James Center. She not only was there at the beginning to help us kick it off, but your example, like everything that you've accomplished, was a huge source of, like I said, for inspiration. And I, that just the fact that you really do walk the walk, right? Like you're here day to day, believing in what you're doing, outreaching, making sure that people get the help that they need. So thank you for all your contributions to the center, continued. And yeah, I think that I did want to talk a little bit about how you guys were mentioning, like, without the substances, we still have to do the work, or there needs to be something in place where, because I know that there's people that, like we're talking about, they get sober and then they don't have the support, they don't do the work, they don't have those healthy coping strategies, those behaviors in place where they can process the old emotion and new emotions and fears and everything that comes up. And I think it's so important to touch on that because it is easy to fake it, right? And it's almost encouraged, like fake it till you make it, right? Like, but I think there comes a time where you're going to have to sit and face whatever it is that brought you to the point of using, checking out, escaping, and that can be, without an alternative, without the substance, there's a problem, right? If you don't have anything to help you deal, that's a huge issue. It brings people to suicide. Like it really, like if you don't have any kind of relief, and sometimes I know that drugs and alcohol actually help people, right? Cope, like when it's too much, it's just too much. So, the Vic James Center has alternatives, things like that, but I'm not sure what the link is to getting people to understand that it's not just stop using and drinking. It's like, there has to be something in between.
Right.
Yeah, I think
that's the first step, right?
Yeah.
The first step is stop using. And I think it's really hard for people to ask for help. So that's why I think it's important that we make people aware that there are resources out there, that there are solutions, that there are, answers.
Yeah.
So you're absolutely right. I think that's the first step. And then the next step is, doing some of the work, trying to understand yourself. And I think that's hard for children and young adults to really take a look. I know I certainly didn't want to talk about my feelings when I was a kid.
Or feel them, right? They're huge. They're overwhelming. Like even to this day, like they can be just paralyzing. Like depending on how much, your sensitivity is to emotion or your trauma, whether it's in childhood or created while drinking and using, right? Like let's just put that out there. Like there's a lot of trauma there. So I think it's so brave when someone can sit and face everything that's coming up and sit with it. It's excruciating.
Tolerating that discomfort, I think is a big part of it. And even what we teach in treatment, I'm not sure your treatment facility, but
definitely.
It's learning how to tolerate those feelings and to sit. And I think it's really hard to sit with yourself. I think that's like a lot of people spend time running and escaping from getting to know themselves and who they are and escaping that pain and the stress. And also, I mean, let's be honest, like alcohol and even some drugs are glamorized.
For
right?
sure, yeah.
Looks fun. It's appealing. Society, culture. And it's, a highly addictive and poisonous substance.
Yeah. And I feel like there's a lot of, I had a lot of self-hatred, and if and building self-love has been a journey that I'll always be on. And I think that that was something, my counselor, I'm sure you've heard this kind of technique before, but look in the mirror and tell yourself that you love yourself. That was the first time I had ever been told to do something like that, was when I was in treatment. And it was extremely uncomfortable, and I didn't see the point, and I didn't understand it, and I was still very defiant to the whole process. But I think, like you were mentioning with the Vic James Center, it's like on the ground, trying to keep the theme of a testimony, like people that work with the Vic James Center, show up and do that message, and for people with the kids really that they're working with to see that, whether it clicks now or later,
Right.
it's a lasting impact. I think that's really important. Like,
Absolutely.
I didn't have anything like that, when I was in high school, or in college. Even when I came back and was early sober, like the closest community I had to relate to was like a 12-step meeting with people that were like 50, 60 and above. It was a small town in Ohio. I didn't feel a part of. And because I didn't feel a part of, I was like, I'm not going.
Right.
They don't understand me, and they did, to an extent, but I just didn't feel that connection. And that's just another big part of addiction and recovery, is connection and feeling a part of.
Yeah.
Like, it's so vital. I feel like I say it on a loop, how important that community is. Whatever it's going to be for you, it's really important to find it.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Just from your expert opinions, I've talked with my buddies about this a lot. Like, from human to human, do you think that everyone has like, I like to put it out as like a propensity to addiction? Like when you come out of the oven, you have like a percentage, and like life events, if you will, like trauma, experience, maybe genetics, all play a part into maybe leading you to addiction. But because I don't know why, I think I have not a resentment, but I don't like you have anxiety, you have depression, you have this. I feel like it's, for me at least, something I relate to more would be like, I have a little bit of all of that at a different level, and it varies, and it has varied. But yeah, what do you think about that?
And just to that, I will say, and you are not your anxiety, you are not your depression,
Right.
right? That's what you're experiencing.
Exactly,
That does
yeah.
not define you.
Yeah.
And I think that's a hard thing to decipher, right, at the time, and to really see that and to be able to step outside of that.
Right.
As far as a propensity, yes, I mean, expert opinion, I think there's a lot that plays a role, genetics being one of them. But I also do believe it's, again, starting from birth on, and attachment and caregivers and trauma and environment and society and cultural messages. And I mean, you name it, it goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
So, again, that's why I think having resources and knowledge is power, and that sort of information. And like you said, like, you never know when you'll plant a seed.
Yeah.
And we see that too in treatment. Sometimes people don't necessarily get it in the first try, and that's okay. Some people don't get it on the 12th try. Like, it's like, just don't give up on yourself, and trust that, that there is help out there, that there are answers, that this doesn't have to be the rest of your life. That This
Yeah.
isn't it. Your story isn't over. But yes, I do. I feel a lot, plays a role, plays a factor. Like I said, for me, my struggles and addiction and things, whatnot, mine didn't really show up until a little bit later in life. Once I had graduated from college and started working in a bar and then managed a bar, I'm like, wow, this is a lot of fun. Like, I can get down with this. I can dig this. And for me, really where mine came to the forefront was out of a relationship. And been in a relationship that at the time I didn't realize wasn't so healthy, maybe even describe it as toxic. And I had certainly turned to self-medicating and numbing and trying to escape. And before then, I hadn't really thought that, I was a problematic drinker or partier. I just thought I was doing what was fun and social, and what everyone else was doing. So I just think it can come at like any time in your life at any point. I think it's really like based on some of the decisions and the choices you make, but like, we don't always make the best choices as a teenager or in our 20s or even 30s or 40s. Like, it's it's never too late to do this work.
Yeah, that's definitely true. If you get on like that treatment wheel of going to treatment a lot or stuff like that, I've had friends my age that have already been to treatment 4 or 5 times, and it feels for them that they've expressed like, I'm not going to get it. And that's kind of hard to hear because my experience was different. And I think this kind of links into something that I struggled with early working in treatment is wanting for others, I can see it so clearly, or like, why don't you get it? And trying to remove myself from their experience or their recovery and see that that's really just, me putting onto them. But have you had any experiences working in recovery with that being a challenge, like your recovery or your experience blending in any way?
That's a good question, and I'm sure yes, right, because I'm human.
Yeah.
And none of us are perfect, although I used to think that was something I wanted to strive to be.
Right.
But yes, of course, and I think it's something, luckily I've had a lot of good training and mentorship. And, I myself am in therapy, therapists need therapists, and I think it's important for all of us to do the work. And because like you said, we never stop growing, we never stop evolving and becoming the best version of ourselves. So I do think, and it's something, to pay attention to of the projection, or wanting it more than they may want it, right? Like sometimes it's hard to not want to work harder than they are, because you can see the light, right? Like I know for me, it was very dark. The times were very dark towards the end of my journey. And then it took recovery for me to really see like, okay, like I have a second chance at life here. Like there is hope, there is light. So I think it's important to carry the message while still like not dismissing their pain, and the challenges that they're having, even with relapsing. I think it's easy to get discouraged and think that like, I'm never going to get this, but it's not necessarily true. So I think it's, a lot of just being attuned to the client and really hearing them and understanding them, and also trying to give hope where you can.
Yeah. That makes sense to me. I think I've been learning that as I've gone. Still only like 1 year in working in treatment, but I do love it. And it's inspiring to see someone with 11 years in recovery that's still kind of like on fire for it, still has a passion for it. Because I think I was warned by a lot of people in my home group and from time to time, people that I work with, it's a high burnout. You're going to burn out, it's too close to, your experience. And, like I found that advice good, but I also think that it doesn't have to be that way, and I kind of feel like I see that sometimes where I work with people that either step away from their own program or I've heard about it and seen it in a lot of places where it's like working in treatment or working in recovery becomes your recovery. And that's like kind of a scary place, I think, because and I've caught myself in times leaving work like really upset and like, why am I so upset? It's because I started to do that again.
Well, I think it's hard to not take on their feelings and to take on their experience because, again, you care. Like, I think it's amazing that you're working in treatment and being so open with your recovery and trying to help others. And yes, of course, there is the burnout risk, and it does happen. And that's why I think the better you know yourself, when to sort of take a step back, when to work on your self-care, when to get rest. That's why working on that relationship is so important, so then you can better show up for others. But, I mean, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's our work, right?
Yeah.
That's our work. Like being able to understand what our limits are, where that passion is, where that light comes from, but how to, like you just said, like how to make sure that our cup is filled so that we can go out in the community and help other people. If that's our calling, if that's what we're feeling drawn to, like it's just a matter of protecting ourselves. And I don't know what's better though, like seeing the light come on, like seeing people's lives transform, like seeing your own life, like going from a person who doesn't care about anything to like now caring too much. It's pretty amazing.
We're good at that, the extremes, one extreme to the next.
Yeah, that's true. I just spent yesterday the last like 6 hours from like 4 to 10 with one of our guys that had done 3 months inpatient, and he's almost done 3 months outpatient PHP, and it's a completely different person. You know,
Amazing.
I care for him so much. He cares for me a lot. He's made me, included me into his family, you know, and he's like killing it, you know, and he came in a hard spot. And I work a lot with veterans. He's a veteran, and with Veterans Day being tomorrow too, it's just like a lot of people need help.
They do.
You know, and it can be sad to see when people don't get it, or you work with people for a long time, and they return to where they were or close to that. That has been the hardest part, I think, for me, that's where the blending, I think, is the hardest for me not to.
So question, and let me know if this is too off topic, but when you're working with individuals, do you think of yourself as helping them, or do you think of yourself as being there as a witness?
Yes, I don't think of myself as helping them.
Okay. I think that's an important distinction.
I think of myself as more of a witness. Like I don't think I have all the answers.
Heavy, yeah.
I don't. I think that they have the power within.
Right.
So it's more about being a mirror, being a reflection, helping them see what they may not be able to see.
Beautiful,
versus, being there. I mean,
I think that helps with the burnout, right? Like, you're not carrying it. Like, this isn't my job to help you. And also, like, that person doesn't... If someone came to me and, like, I'm going to help you...
Right.
No, you're not.
Right.
I'm going to save you.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it can change it, right?
Yeah.
Like, that subtle switch can help both people, I think, so much. And you do that so well. Thank you.
I really like that. Thanks for sharing that. That's a really good perspective change. I think it's kind of like speaking through suggestion, or just playing a role in their experience. You know, not from an authoritative place. I agree. I never have really responded well to, like, you're a mess. Let me come in and help you. You know what I mean? I mean, that's the power of the shared experience too.
Yeah.
It's
Right,
like,
exactly.
I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm going to share with you what happened to me and how I did it. And if you relate to any of it, like, we can start talking.
Right.
I think that's like...
And the way that I look at this as well, like, I just want to share the gift that was given to me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I'm still so passionate about it after all this time and working in this field. And, like, I don't even see retirement on the radar for me, because I'm like, I love what I do.
Yeah.
I love, working with others. I love, like Sarah mentioned, seeing the light come on. It just really is the best in the world to see people transform, and to see them become the person that they were meant to be, and for me, I did happen to align with what I feel is my purpose and my calling, and I had no idea. If you would have asked me if I thought I'd be living out in Los Angeles, California, as a therapist specializing in addiction, I would have told you were crazy. Who said that to me, 20 years ago.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I feel that. I think I wanted to be a lawyer, because I was good. My reason was I was good at arguing.
Well, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah. And I am still good at arguing. But no, yeah, it is. That's been like the gates have opened for me in the last like 2 years, really. And it all started with doubling down on getting in more of a constant communication and connection with my higher power, tripling and quadrupling down on my recovery as a daily practice, a moment by moment practice for me. And getting out of my own self-will, I think.
Yeah.
Getting out of my own self-will and my own way, asking to be of service from my higher power has, like, I'll give you an example. Like, a couple of days, I had to spend $2,000 on my car to get, like, new tires because they were run down and all these other fixes and stuff. And talked with my sponsor, and I was like, I'm not going to have any money. Freaking out about money. And he said, donate more money in your meetings or in your life. And so I did. And then I got like a couple checks out of nowhere for one of my old jobs, and I'm fine. You know what I mean? I think that that's just, it's just wild how things like that kind of work. And they may not be directly linked, but they are for me. So
I think you get what you give, right?
Yeah.
It's what you put into this, expecting nothing in return. And I think just being able to show up for other people, whether it's in your recovery or your job or as a human being out in this world, and coming from a place of love. Like I feel love is one of the most powerful forces in the world. And that's where I believe I stem from, and that's how I show up in my life and how I show up for clients and my family and my friends and loved ones and relationships. And I just think I think we need more of it.
Yeah.
Our relationship to, the different situations in our life, whether it's finances or relationships, family, things like that, it's always a direct connection to our relationship with a higher power, right? Like I'm feeling insecure about money, that's a reflection of where I'm at spiritually, right? Like it should come from a place, obviously there's practicalities, right?
Yeah.
But it should come from a place of abundance, of faith, like Kylie's saying, of love. Like if we're out doing what we need to be doing, what's on our path, then the universe will rise up to meet us. Sorry,
It's true.
getting weird, but yeah,
agree.
like I think it'll come together for better or worse, right? Like things happen,
Totally
but
agree.
that's our work. Like that's the work. So
And I think that helps with, even taking some risks, because we know fear can run the show, right? Fear is just massive and can be such a big barrier. And just like you getting advice like that, to just sort of let go and trust.
right,
And look what happened. Like we don't know what the future holds. We don't. And so important to stay present. And I think it's easier to lean on trust and faith than fear. Not easier, I shouldn't say easier. I think that's harder. But I think it's there can be more ease, in that acceptance,
Joy,
and that surrender and the joy, and just, to know like you don't have to be in charge.
Yeah. It's been freeing, and it's been the daily surrender for me, on that side has been very freeing.
Yeah,
And
but it is a sense of freedom, right? When
Yeah.
you can let go, when you're not tied down to the outcome, when you're not tied down to like, oh, what if I don't have a car? Like, okay, I haven't had a car before and I've been fine, right? Like,
Yeah.
why am I so attached to like, it has to look a certain way, where literally my life was completely different, looking completely different, and I was okay then too. Like it's all
we forget
internal.
that,
Yeah,
right?
it's
You
all,
forget that.
our life is inside. So, anyway, but yeah, I like how you said freedom. I think that's a big piece of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It reminded me of the show, I think it was the show Mom. I don't know if any of you've ever watched that show. It's a great show. And it's actually about sobriety. There's some recovery worked into it, but there's this one wise woman on the show, Marjorie, and she's a sponsor. And I think one of the things, one time I'll never forget her saying this, is like, you see the mountains ahead and you forget about the mountains you've climbed that are behind you. And I just think that's so true, because it's like so easy to just forget how far we've come, the things that we have overcome, and to think that, you don't have the strength and the courage, and you do. It's there. It's in you. And I think also that's where the community aspect
For sure. Yeah.
comes in.
Yep.
That's very true. Yeah. And I remind myself of that by reminding others that I work with. I think that's a powerful way for me to
Take our own advice.
remember things. Yeah. To take my own advice. Yeah, exactly. Everyone has varying opinions on talking about recovery openly. And it's sort of new, I guess, ish. And I just wanted to hear your opinion on, do you think that this is doing, more good or bad? Or because I've had a lot of conversations, and it's actively on Andrew and I's mind when it comes to doing a recovery podcast. I know what my intentions are, but how do you see that?
I agree, and you're right. Yes, there are many mixed opinions on the matter, but I feel it's important to spread the word. It's important for others to know that this works. I think, looking back when I was a kid, Sarah too, like we didn't have these sort of resources. There wasn't social media. There wasn't these outlets in the internet really to look these things up and to understand. So you suffer in silence and had no idea. And so this is, that's why I'm here today, because I believe in what you're doing. I believe in trying to reach as many people as possible and spreading the word. You're coming from a place of health, you know, and wellness, and I think like lifestyle changes, you know, things like that are so important, and that this is possible.
Yeah.
But yes, people may not necessarily agree.
Yeah.
But how else do they know it works?
Yeah. Yeah. I love the suffer in silence. That was like I heard that right about when I started the PM recovery page, in hopes for more community, and more feeling a part of. And then coming into a point now where we bring on guests. I think we aim to share experience, strength, and hope in this way that reaches more people in different ways. And, with like, it could be like a 10-second clip that you catch, that maybe that last seed or the first seed, whatever it is. I think it's important. It's important to talk about. I felt a lot of shame early in recovery, a lot. And probably most of it was maybe self-inflicted or in my head. And, there wasn't that much maybe real action taken against me to reinforce that shame. But I felt it. And I think we're in a much better spot here with openness, and people are proud to talk about their mental health, and they're proud is a weird word, but they're more open.
Courageous and brave to share, as you and Andrew are. Yeah. I
think that's amazing. But it has been hard to hear from people that I respect. I talked to you. I had an experience with someone who told me, if you keep doing this, you're going to relapse. You're doing this for ego. That was jarring for me.
Yeah.
And I took that advice and I thanked that person for that. But that was the first time that someone had said something like that to me about, that sharply, and someone with a lot of time. And I'm still going to go to that meeting on Sunday and say hi to that person. But yeah, it's just like, I hope I'm not doing it for ego. That was kind of what they had said. I understand that there's ego involved, but I really just wanted to hear your story, hear people's stories, share the experience, show that it works. And that's it.
Yeah. And I think that's what matters.
Mm-hmm.
I think that what your intentions are, and again, people are going to tell you what they think, how they feel, and a lot of that's going to be based on their own experience and their own beliefs. But I don't think there's one answer. And I think it's so important to spread the message, for mental health and substance use and addiction. And just so many people are struggling out there.
Yeah.
And if this just helps one person, you made a difference in the world.
Yeah.
Right?
I think that's when you've made it, when you start pissing people off, right? Like, what you're doing is different. It's not 100% new, but that's what part of it is, right? You're taking a stand, you're carrying your message, you're doing what you wanted to set out to do, and it's going to piss some people off. Yeah. But that's what happens when you take a risk.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
I think it's just knowing internally, like, you're doing it for the right reasons. You have those guardrails up. That's how I feel anyway. Like, people don't always like what I'm doing either. Shocking.
Right.
but you're open. Like, you're open to feedback.
Yeah.
And you just check back in with that moral compass. And
Exactly.
I think that's the best we can do, right? So.
Yeah. And I'll share the part of that story that was the magical part, which is that right after I talked with that person, there was a meeting, and then I left and I was driving to another one, actually. And I got a message from a friend who I hadn't talked to in like 7 years on Instagram. And he was like, hey, man, like I'm standing at almost a year sober, or just got a year sober, and watching and hearing from you and seeing you post about your recovery was one of the main factors in me, going and doing that. So, that was like 30 minutes after that conversation, and that was like, that honestly changed the whole situation. Had that not happened, I think I would have been ruminating longer.
And again, I think like higher power, right? Like there was no coincidence that you got that call.
Yeah.
That day.
It's true.
To receive different messages, and like Sarah said, I think we take it all in. We hear people, we digest it and see if it if it aligns, if it doesn't, part of our moral compass. And
Or our intent, right?
Yeah,
Like, are we
intent.
acting in accordance with our intention? And okay, like, we get off track. So what? We course correct, right? Like, it's dynamic, it's fluid, it's a creative process. Like, we don't know where it's going to end up, but that's part of the magic. Like, that's part of the fun. So
yeah. Speaking of, it just reminded me of a story. Last week I was working out at the gym, Gold's Gym in Venice. Shout out to Gold's.
Do you work out there?
Yeah.
That's where I work out.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Oh my God, funny.
I have to
Maybe
get
I'll see you
lifted.
there now. But I was there and I was actually rocking a Vic James Center hat and I had on a sweatshirt. And so I was getting up from one of the machines and a young gentleman walked by and he said, "Hey, I just wanted to say thank you." And I kind of forgot. I was like, looked at him. I'm like, "Thank you." He's like, "Yeah, your sweatshirt." He's like, "It's really cool." He's like, "I tried to take my life 6 years ago."
oh my gosh.
And so I just wanted to say thank you. And I just looked at him and my heart sunk. And I said, "I'm so glad you're still here." And he said, "Yeah, me too." So on the sweatshirt, it says, "You are enough." And on the back of it, it says, "Dear person behind me, the world is a better place with you in it. Love the person in front of you."
That's so dope. I love that. That's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. So just even something like that, I saw that sweatshirt, I had to have it. I'm like, this emulates who I am and who I
Yeah.
want to be, and that I want everyone to know that they matter, even when they may not believe that or know that.
Yeah.
I think it's important to carry that message however we can.
I completely agree. And I feel like we're in such a time where, there's all these ways to connect, like social media and and we're like the most disconnected we've ever been.
Right.
And like, at least it feels like that at times. I've actively tried to force myself into community and be a part of community. And I think you kind of have to a degree. It's not going to come knocking on your door, but the communities are there, like the Vic James Center community and whatever community that you want to be a part of your program, if you will, is vital.
Absolutely. That's why I think, like I mentioned, lifestyle changes. Like I think it's important, like working out,
Yeah.
being involved in activities, like because it is hard too, depending on, where your addiction led you and how much you had been isolated and you're giving up parts of your life, like your friendships, your family, and you're neglecting your health. And so I think, like, again, the Vic James Center, I just love that because it supports getting involved and it supports doing other activities. I mean, yes, therapy, works and it works really well. But again, for teenagers, I doubt they want to sit around and talk about their feelings. And so they can work out some of those things by being put in a community with others that they may not meet, just out in the world,
Yeah.
like-minded, and be part of that healing and that nurturing.
It's the action piece and showing up, which is probably we've talked a good amount about taking action, whether it's to help others or to help yourself on some of those really hard parts is the hardest thing to do, I think. Definitely. I do want to hit you with one of our questions that we used to ask all of our guests because I'd love to hear it from you. We used to start every episode with when we brought on a guest and ask them what their perspective on what an addict or an alcoholic is, and if you could vary it from maybe what it was before recovery, just to hear from you on that.
So to hear what my version of an addict or alcoholic is prior to recovery?
If you could do prior to recovery and where you're at now in terms of like what your view or how you think of an addict or an alcoholic.
I look at it as a loss of control. I look at it as consequences, behavioral changes, going against values, your personal beliefs, who you are. I think it's, again, I think the substances obviously play a role, the addictive components and the chemicals and things like that. So I think it's a loss of hope. I think it's disconnected from love. I think it can be a dark place, but again, what comes first to mind is just it's a feeling of being out of control and not being able to stop something that you don't want to be doing, or that is bad for you, or that's killing you, quite frankly.
That feels like my experience. Yeah, definitely. I really wanted to thank you for coming on today. It's been amazing talking with you. I feel like that went really fast. But you're a very, very special person, I can tell. Look forward to talking with you more. See you at the gym. And I really appreciate your opinion. I think a lot of people listening to you will get a lot out of hearing from you, and I know I did. So thank you so much for coming on. Thank you, Sarah, for being here as well.
Thank you.
It's really cool to see your guys' friendship. Side note, I pulled up early and I saw you guys just like hanging out before. So that's really cool to see, two people in recovery that seem, they're like really close friends.
Yeah.
It's really beautiful. So
For sure.
yeah, thank you, both of you, for today. And
Yes, thank you, Mitch, so much.
Yeah, you're amazing.
of course,
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Honor to be here, and thank you, Sarah,
For
for
sure.
being here as well, and Nova.
Yeah,
Nova.
thanks, Nova.
Appreciate you. And don't forget, on
Oh.
November 12th,
That's
Yes.
right.
On
This
November
Sunday,
12th.
on Sunday.
This
2
Sunday.
days. Yes.
yeah, it is finally upon us. The Vic James Center is having their annual fundraiser from 3 to 6 at Art Bar LA. It's going to be lit. It's going to be exciting.
Can't wait.
So
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah.
Can't wait.
It'll be a lot of fun.
So,
Sarah's done such incredible things. So
yeah,
Looking
just
forward
one
to
more
it.
of them.
Yeah. Okay.
that's right.
Thank you.
But thank you, everyone. This has been episode 63 with Kylie. Thank you, Nova. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Kylie. This has been dope. I look forward to listening back to this one for sure. We'll keep coming back.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Sweet.
Yay. Good job, guys.
Bye.
Oh my God.